Well, in this session, you've been talking about grieving the losses together, processing the pain. Grieving is really processing pain from a loss, and it's normal to grieve. In fact, it's normal to grieve even positive things in our lives. I know when our second child was born, I was so excited, and yet I was grieving, for instance, being able to sleep and having a regular schedule. Um, Grieving is biblical, and it's also emotionally and spiritually healthy to do. The only thing that we do different as Christians is we don't pretend like we don't have pain and losses in our lives. That's not good to do. But instead, the one thing that we do is we grieve, but we grieve as those with hope. And that really means that you and I know that while I have these feelings, and I'm grieving the losses, I also know that God's in charge of my future and that He can take even the losses and take them and make them work for my good. So Scripture understands something very important that I think is lost in modern day Christianity many times. I think sometimes well-meaning Christian leaders will help us and they want to cheer us up and don't fear and don't do this and have trust God and through this difficulty you will and we can and we always. And what that does sometimes is squashes down the actual pain. It squashes down the actual things within us. And see, Scripture understands that when there's trauma, or when our hearts have been wounded, or when we have had difficulties that have stressed us for a long period, or there's a natural disaster, or there's a significant loss in our lives, or a bunch of little losses, what Scripture understands is that we need to express that loss. We need to let that pain and that hurt out. And then we can express our faith. Otherwise, it's kind of like sugarcoating it. It's like sugarcoating pain. It's like sugarcoating the feelings of loss, only to have the faith part not allowing the pain to come out. And then the pain deals with us at some point or another. It's interesting because pain does not go away unless it's processed. And pain undealt with will show up sooner or later. I want to caution you against ever getting into the idea where you can bypass your pain, so to speak, bypassing the processing of your pain. Some people call it spiritual bypassing, but there's a lot of variety in what they think that means. And so I just want to be very clear. Never bypass pain. Express it, let it out, grieve. It's extremely important. That's the way we heal. God made us that way. It's biblical. And then we can express our faith. Then we could say, I trust God, and He has this. Interestingly enough, for about 20 years ago now, there were missionaries in Africa that were doing work, and they were attempting to reach people. And they attempted to reach them with the gospel like they usually did by sharing the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. But what was really interesting is they weren't seeing any real change or transformation in the people. And then it dawned on them that the people that they were trying to reach had been through a lot of trauma. There are a number of wars and droughts, and they had a lot of undealt with pain, a lot of things that they had never taken time to grieve. And it was actually hindering the work of the Lord in that place. I would say to you that I'm not surprised by that, because see, I think if God could overstep our pain and just kind of throw it out or heal it quickly and all those kinds of things, what He would be doing is not love. It would be manipulation, because He understands that we hold things in our heart, and He doesn't rip it open. He doesn't tear off our hand from our heart and say, let me in there. But instead, in love, He wants to heal those places. And if you and I say, no, Lord, I don't want to go there. He loves us enough to wait until we're ready to go there. And so it doesn't surprise me that when we have a bunch of heart wounds that have not healed, when we have trauma that we've not processed, that it can hold us back. And so that's even more important for us than in learning to grieve, processing the pain, grieving it, and being okay with grieving it. That way we can heal. They say you have to feel in order to heal. There's a little page in your booklet that leaves spots for you to be able to list your feelings. And I'd like to encourage you to use that page. Yeah, I suspect there's many folks who think they aren't feeling much, they're doing just fine. But if you spend enough quiet time, there might be some feelings that you're feeling. It's important to write those things down. Losses that you're feeling. And then to grieve them. That's healing. That's the way God made us. And even to share those with one another in your next session. God bless you.